Well, for all you Russian and Putin tards, I just got to point out a couple facts here. I don't know what Putin's doing with the binoculars. For all I know, he could be checking out Obama on the beach for the way things are going up there in political land, if you know would get my drift, because it seems it's commonplace amongst the top echelons of government and everywhere, probably even the banking sector. But what recently just happened here is, there's this thing with the West is doing these sanctions against Russia. So there's going to be this deal now where Putin's trying to push a law to seize foreign assets in the country that did the sanctions against an oligarch, and also to have the oligarch reimbursed by the Russian state government. So that's going to be a trick, because I'm going to tell you right now, that ain't going to work. It's going to be a major backfire, because actually, all the people that are cheerleaders over here in the, in the West for Vladimir Putin, and they're always saying the dollar's going down, and I don't know, maybe the dollar is going to have it. I think it is going to go down some. It is going to lose value, but nothing like what what happened to the ruble over the last 100 years. I mean, you'd literally need like billions and billions of rubles if you had back in 1917 to equal even 1 ruble today. That's how much it got devalued. But look what's even went on in the last 2 years. This is the chart of the U.S. dollar to the ruble in the last 2 years. It's amazing when something actually does happen bad here in the United States. If something does bad happen, I mean, these people are already cheering on Russia like it's doing so much better, but it's not. The Russian ruble has been the second worst performing currency in the last year. The only one that was worst was the Argentine peso, and you know what happened with that deal. So you know what's going on with it, this guy Putin? He's having problems because of his ventures in Ukraine. It's like, yeah, he's playing games over there. In the meantime, there's a lot of problems in his economy. He's got very low it's very low growth. They also have low productivity per the workers, because there's no, the deal is there's only 110 oligarchs that own 35% of the wealth. So you realize how much of that trickles down to people. That doesn't give them any incentive to work hard. That's why the productivity's lower. But anyway, there's like various faces that Putin puts on. He's got to, Anyway, but, a lot of people, they just keep cheering this guy on. They always make it sound like Russia's got it so good. Well, not really. The murder rate is the second highest in the world. It's twice as high, as the United States. A lot of people talk about or bemoan the violence of the United States. The Russian murder rate is twice as high. There's twice as much drinking. It's also the fifth most dangerous place to be a reporter. The most dangerous place to be a reporter is Iraq, followed by the Philippines, followed by Syria, followed by Algeria, then it's Russia. If Russia reports on the news, guess what happens? But the problem is with Vladimir Putin, I think he has the, and he stated this casually and sometimes, that he's got the nuclear option, and they have half the world's supply of enriched uranium. They got a lot of missiles. That's one thing. Their economy's not doing good. Their their population's been going down. Actually, I showed that death cross for the Russian population. I'm not trying to knock the Russians here. I'm saying that the guys on the top are screwing the Russians over. They're getting screwed over more by the people on the top of them than we are over here getting screwed over by the Wall Street banksters and people in Washington, D.C. And over here, we actually got more capability to fix the problem, but you're being directed, your attention's being directed against the United States instead of being directed towards the tools that the United States actually has within it, that you could fix the problem by rolling up your sleeve. Instead of throwing stones at the United States, you can actually roll up your sleeves and fix the usurpers in government and fix the banksters instead of worshiping this guy, Vladimir Putin. But, I have to say one thing about Russia: they do have a lot of hot-looking women, but they got all the nice legs, the hips. They're really good looking, but then they stick them in a uniform and they go marching around like a bunch of zombies. It's a little bit ridiculous because that's life in Russia. It's wrapped around the military-industrial complex far more so than even the United States. So that's really what goes on. Gerald Celente, I don't know what the deal is with these guys like that. They're just propagandists for Russia Today. There's loads of them out there. Max Kaiser is another famous one that it's nonstop against the West. The West is this, the West is that. But the reality is, people, if they get off their dead ass, they can fix anything that's a problem in the West because we actually have the tools to do it. In Russia, they don't have the tools to do it. That's the problem. The people over there, if they probably had the tools to do it, they'd probably fix it because they're good workers, But anyway, it's either you got that or you can be a model or you can be a KGB, a spy agent or whatever the hell it is. But, there's not many freedoms in Russia at all. It's, despite what you see in the media and on YouTube. For the most part, the country's pretty much dirt poor. There's an oligarchy that has a hell of a lot of money, but it's either in that group or once you go down, there's no middle class. It's like the middle class is very small, basically. It goes from oligarch to very small middle class to dirt poor. And most people are dirt poor, and that's unfortunate. And that's due to those guys on the top. And, but, it's like they're never going to have the freedoms, And it's actually, if you ever seen any Russian girls out there going to the beach like this, I'm sure there'd be some Russian KGB officer over there, or FSB officer saying, get in uniform, get on the parade, get marching down the street again, get rid of that surfboard. You need to be doing your service to the state, and no fun for you. So that's just how it is, man. And a lot of people just don't realize that deal, but Vladimir Putin, man, he's losing it. But the problem is with Vladimir Putin is that one factoid is that they do have half the world's rich uranium. They're sitting on a lot of missiles, and old boy is basically he's a KGB thug, man, from way back. I know he's a politician. He's just, he's trying to play games in Ukraine. But in the meantime, the domestic policies in Russia, things are falling apart. And they have been falling apart. If this chart, this is the ruble against the dollar, okay? The ruble's crashing like crazy. And actually, if you look over the last week, it's even crashing even more, okay? So, I mean, come on, if this was the dollar doing this, you'd never hear the end of it from people like Max Kaiser or Gerald Celente or, to name just two, but there's plenty of them out there. There's plenty of them out there. So, I'm not just being a cheerleader here for the USA because I realize there's a lot of garbage going on in the USA I do not like. But when we get right down to the issue, we got a lot. You would not be wanting to live in under this guy because anybody it's been in power basically since the year 2000 is a dictator. I don't give a damn. It's almost like when the forces moved against Ukraine, it was like immediate. He didn't have to consult with anybody, you know what I mean? As a matter of fact, all the Russian forces like that were even in Ukraine that did not have insignia or have insignia on the trucks or armored personnel carriers or the tanks. How did that come about unless that's under direct control from one guy on the top that he can even tell the military, take your insignias off, take the insignias off the trucks, take everything, all the markings off the trucks, the tanks, armored personnel carriers. This guy's got complete control, man, all the way. I mean, even though, like you might say, the President of the United States does military action without consulting Congress, and that's illegal, could you imagine the President of the United States just saying, let's go invade, a country next to us or something like that and take the insignia off the troops and their equipment, and it's per my orders. You don't have that kind of control. That's screaming a big difference of what's going on. And they got a lot of problems, like I said. They got, twice the murder rate, twice the drinking. You talk about people in the West that were disappeared and reporters that disappeared. Well, if you criticize this guy, hey, Russia's the fifth most dangerous place in the world to be a reporter. So, anyway, get in uniform, march down the street, and you work for the state. Just remember that, baby. No fun for you, right? No going to the beach, no carrying a surfboard. This is Russia. They put these, these are Swedish women. If they were in Russia, they would be like, you'd be marching down the street and you'd be in uniform. You wouldn't be having fun out there on the beach.